So, after a long hiatus, I finally returned with another installment in the Can I Gold Every Track of the Day series. The currently playing track Vixxa by Enysado was my top rated track in the previous April 2021 video, meaning this time we will be going over the track of the days for May of 2021. So, which tracks will be in my top 5 this month and which track will be my highest rated? And will any track trip me up in my quest to achieve every gold medal? Well, let's take a look. Starting us out on May 1st, we have Cajarana by Mikey, and it gets our 3rd place finish this month. Cajarana is a dirt track, a full-speed dirt track, I should say. Lots of transitions as well, like that jump there, for example. Lots of wall ride jumps as well, including this little wall ride here. And overall, the track just flows extremely well, very smooth transitions, and really nothing major to say about it other than that. Really no flaws to the track as well. Just a very nice start to the month here on the track from Mikey. Moving on to May 2nd, we have Viridi, and it was made by That Ski Freak. And we go from a full-speed dirt track to a full-speed grass track. This track just missed out on a top 5 placement. It for sure would have made it into a top 10 placement. Just a very nice, smooth-flowing track altogether. Really, the track was a little bit on the difficult side. Very narrow lines to get through some sections, but overall, just a nice, again, smooth-flowing track here from That Ski Freak. Moving on to May 3rd, we have The Sheepments by Atoll. This track moves on from the full speed of the last couple tracks and brings us to sort of a transitional tech track. The Sheepments was a very small, compact track. You sort of loop through other areas that you've already been through, and overall just a fun track and a decent track at that. I only spent a few minutes and a couple attempts on this track to get the gold medal, and I did notice that in some spots it could use a little bit better directions on pointing you where to go, but it really wasn't that big of an issue. Moving on to May 4th, we have Getcha Anomaly by Zamasis39. And man, this track could have been very excellent. There is one spot later on that I feel completely ruined the track, but overall the track is very good outside of that. But again, one spot in this one very much ruined it for me. Very drift heavy track, some very major drifts as well. Tight lines throughout, very fast. We got this very tight uphill turn, and that'll bring us to my problem in the track, which is this dirt section. It starts out fine, but the exit to it is awful, with such a narrow gap right there to jump through. So easy to bonk on either the left or right side. It's just so dang hard to get through that section, and that is the part that completely ruined the track for me and where I lost 90% of my runs. On the 5th of May, we got Greenbelt by Pekarenzo, sort of a transitional dirt track, awkward start to this one as well. Really the whole thing felt a little bit on the awkward side. I think that's just because it's very slow and a low gear as well, and that translates to just a, I don't know, for me the lower gear dirt, slow dirt, it just feels very awkward to me. This doesn't necessarily mean that the track is bad, just really not my cup of tea. Again, the slow, low gear, dirt, and grass is just not my thing. On May 6th, we have WoxxTheFox, hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, by Drifting Dagmar. Yeah, very tough title today to pronounce for this track, and the track in general is a speed tech track, I want to say. I don't know, maybe a speed fun track is more accurate, because it's got a lot of transitions, it's got some dirt, as well as road, tons of drifts as well, and you know, also you get on this track a very easy author medal. When I was first driving this track, I thought I was completely like driving the wrong way because the gold medal went so far behind. I have no idea what was up with that, but then I realized that the times are just insanely easy for this one. So if you want a free-ish author medal, yeah, go play this track. As far as the track itself, it's an alright track. I didn't think it was all that fantastic. A little bit of awkward lines here and there. Not, you know, fantastically smooth flowing, but it results in just an okay track. May 7th gives us another transitional type of dirt track. It is Chasm of Mysteries by Sparkling W. The track starts out a little bit on the slower side with some lower speeds and some trickier transitions. It certainly brings up the pace in the second half, getting much faster, and I think it gets more enjoyable in that second part as well. But overall, the track is decent, pretty smooth flowing as well. And yeah, I enjoyed this track a lot. For May 8th, we have Grand League by ChrisDeSinclair. Maybe we can call this one a full speed, maybe a speed fun track. It's kind of got a lot of different stuff in it. The opening section of this one, very, very rough. Lots of things to avoid. Cars, bus stops, street signs, fire hydrants, like mailboxes. So many things to avoid. Very easy to bonk everywhere. On the second part of this track, we got some extremely difficult wall rides. Very narrow lines to actually make them work. This track was very, very difficult to say the least. The wall rides, you have to enter very early, be very aggressive upwards. Unlike a typical wall ride, through this section you gotta weave and then get into this wall ride extremely early again. And yeah, very, very tough wall rides. This one, again, wall ride here very early, and you have to be very aggressive downwards on the exit. So you can make this jump and then into the end here, jump onto the field, and get into this goalpost. Very, very hard track. On May 9th, we get the track The Chase 2 by the Kraz. And just like the previous Chase track, it is basically a full speed track. On this one, we got this little wall ride section at the start, but after we get through this hole in the wall, it'll turn into a full speed dirt track. And just like the previous Chase track, I think this one was pretty good, good enough for a top 10 placement. Not good enough this month for a top 5, unfortunately, for the Kraz. He's made 2 decent tracks, but in the months he's made them, he's just had too much competition. So a bit unfortunate for them, but he has been making some good tracks. The track itself has a couple of trickier parts, including this section right here, where you have to get down this little wall section, and then get your way through here, which can also be a little challenging with that little hop. You can easily slide and hit that one pillar, and then at the end you got this narrow line here to get to the finish, but otherwise a nice track here. On May 10th, we have Zephyr by WoxxTheFox. This is a mixed surface tech track. You know, it wasn't fantastic, it wasn't overtly bad either, kind of just right in the middle of a how a track is. A little bit of weirder lines, not really super smooth driving, but again, it wasn't terrible by any means. And yeah, that's kind of all I really have to say about it, so yeah, I'll let the rest play out here. On the 11th of May, we have Piranha by Vixxa.wp. This is a mixed surface track, kind of maybe a little bit of tech in there, but its main focus is really on the dirt sections. As you'll see by this footage here, my driving, I did not really drive this one all that great. I don't even know how I got the gold medal on this. Yeah, I just drove pretty poorly, and usually from Vixxa on the tracks that they've been putting out lately, the medal times have been much harder, but obviously this one wasn't too bad. With my terrible driving here, I'll still manage to get the gold medal, so they weren't as harsh back then, so lucky for me, I got this one here. But overall, the track seems like it would be alright. Hard to judge it though with my terrible driving. And the first honorable mention of the month comes on May 12th, where we have Under Construction made by Neutron47. On top of a decent route in this one, obviously, we have some fantastic scenery as we'll be climbing up a construction site building. We got materials thrown about as well as construction vehicles everywhere. And generally the track, you know, drives fine and it just looks great as well. The route itself, not good enough. That's mainly what I judge on the top 5 for the route, how well a track drives. So this track doesn't get a top 5 for that. And the scenery puts it ahead of most of the other ones close to the top 5. And yeah, just a very nice looking and driving track here. On May 13th, we have Deep Sea Diving by OregoX. Nothing too special about the track. It's kind of just your typical full-speed dirt track. It's got decent scenery, but really nothing, you know, like super special about the track. And I feel like it's one of OregoX's weaker tracks that we have gone over. Usually they get pretty high ratings from me, and this one, you know, just kind of a typical track. It's not bad by any means. It's a perfectly fine, very smooth flowing track. But again, it's kind of just like any other full-speed dirt track. So again, a good track here, just not a good enough track for a top 5 placement this month. For May 14th, we have Millennium by the Juice. I forgot to actually record this track, so this is a replay, and that's why you see the timer in the upper right is frozen, as well as already having the gold medal. But yeah, this track is speed tech, I want to say, maybe, you know, more of a speed fun, because, you know, speed tech usually doesn't have like wall rides and loops. And I'd say this one is a bit challenging. It didn't take me too long to get it, but some of these very long turns are a little bit challenging, as well as some of the wall rides are a bit awkward as well. But overall, I think the track was pretty good, but a little bit challenging again. On May 15th, we have Knack Icy Hollow by QuasarTM. Immediately here, we're with this bobsleigh, which we have to ice slide now because of the ice update. If you try to take the bobsleigh, you'll be unbelievably slow, so you need to speed slide that to have any speed at all. And that brings us to another bobsleigh immediately, so we're just a huge disadvantage to start this track compared to what you previously would be, and that makes the gold medal quite the challenge here. Barely am going to get it here, and yeah, just again, very, very challenging. Hard to rate this track fairly as well. It doesn't get a top 5 placement. It possibly could have before, but I can't really say what this track otherwise would have played like before the ice update. On May 16th, we have Atoll Freight by RockyStarfield. This is pretty much a dirt track, although there's lots of transitions onto like cargo ships and such, and this track really reminds me a lot of Trackmania Turbo tracks. This track was pretty good as well. I'd say it just missed out on a top 5 placement, definitely a top 10 track, It flows fairly well. There are a couple of weirder spots, and what really took it out of the top 5 would be all the speed checks in the track. Generally, I don't have a problem with my skill level making a majority of speed checks unless they're absolutely absurd, but I know people of lower skills will have problems with it, and for track of the days in general, I just don't like having speed checks in them. Putting all that aside though, again, I thought this was a fairly good track. On May 17th, we had the speed tech track Luthadel by Prof 10. This was a fairly decent track. The only thing that really took it out of like a better ranking, there are a lot of blind turns in this where there's just walls blocking your vision. So really, I just don't generally care for that. I like seeing where I'm about to be driving, and having things block my view I find generally annoying. But overall, the track drove pretty good, I'd say. Yeah, just overall a decent track. Prof 10 generally makes good tracks, and great scenery as well on this one inside this castle. So yeah, just you know, a decent track here. On May 18th, we have our second place finisher, Convergence by Enysado. This is a track I really struggled to try to figure out a ranking for. This was either going to be a top 5 or an honorable mention because, you know, the track is somewhat unique, you know, not a typical route here, kind of all over the place, and lots of mixed surfaces as well, tons of transitions, and again, just not a typical route here. But overall, I did really enjoy this one, more than a typical honorable mention, so that's why it does get the top placement. I know a lot of people will drive this and probably not really care for it, but again, I did really like this track, and definitely worthy of a top 5 placement. The track on May 19th was Retrograde by WoxxTheFox. I don't really have a ton to say about this one. It's kind of just your typical full speed track. Of course, I am an enjoyer of full speed tracks. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite type of track. But this one really had nothing super special going for it. It's just a good track overall, no flaws really, and yeah, it's just a full speed track. For May 20th, we have Lost in the Fog by Volosh. This one you could probably label as maybe a speed tech, maybe more of a speed fun track. Overall, you know, the track was pretty good. I don't have a ton of complaints about it. It's certainly unique when it has these bridges coming up here in which they will be invisible. They got lights on the side at least that you can actually see where to drive across. There's a few of those, like this one right here was a bit weird. They're all a bit weird until you really figure them out. There's a few of those like little looping ones. Overall, I thought they worked pretty well. This one was close to an honorable mention as well. What took it really out of that is at the end, there'll be just a ton of foggy area, which you can't really see the finish in, and I generally like to be able to see again, so didn't really care for the ending of this one. And with a 4th place finish, we have MTC Eista by Henkisme on May 21st. Pretty much have a full ice track here. There are a little bit of road sections in between the ice where you need to exit the ice straights to get some grip, and then that'll take you into the next ice slide. Overall, the track just drove extremely smoothly, everything flowed very well, and I think this is one of the better ice tracks we've had up until this point. Generally not affected by any of the ice changes as well, so it's much easier to rate it higher. I feel as I've been going through these tracks as well, up until this point there hasn't been any like super standoutish ice tracks. This one isn't the greatest, but it still feels far and ahead of what we've really seen so far with ice tracks. On May 22nd, we got a rather short track with the movie set by Nyes. This was close to an honorable mention. Really, the start here where you got these like Neo slides, which I generally don't know how to do, and I'm sure a lot of people don't really know how to do them properly. Very, very difficult opening section, and that's really the reason why it doesn't get an honorable mention. Quite a weird opening to this one. But overall, the rest of the track was pretty good, despite my sloppy-ish run here. Just make sure to take this jump over the cones and get to the finish, and we're already done with the track. May 23rd gives us the track by CLM, which was called Ashy Bravery. Ashy Bravery was pretty much nearly a full dirt track. There's a couple other sections in here, and generally I feel like the large majority of this track was very, very good. However, it's completely ruined by a very strange wall ride section at the end, in which you have a reactor boost down. In combination with the very awkward physics of the reactor boost down and the wall ride on dirt, overall the camera is also not fantastic there. Very hard to see where you're driving in the moment and how the physics are going to take you where, and generally, yeah, it just felt like a fairly poor ending for a otherwise very good track. And getting the highest rating this month would be the track on May 24th. We have Velocitas Cursas by Raveout. This is a speed tech track. It's got very tight lines, but overall I felt it was super satisfying to get those lines, and overall just an extremely fun track to drive. There's one very small complaint I have about the track, which is right here. They have an arrow pointing directly at the middle of the track, which there is a pole right there. You probably should not put an arrow where you're not supposed to drive. You should put arrows where you're supposed to drive. But really, that's pretty minor. Once you see that that's there, you know it for the rest of the time on the track. So overall, yes, just an extremely good track here by Raveout. The track on May 25th was Viridi Gramina by Enysado. The track is basically a grass track throughout. There are a couple of smaller road sections like this one here, for example, but typically you'll be driving in a 4th gear grass. This type of track, I don't enjoy it too much. It's certainly not, I don't hate it, but it's going to be hard to try to get a track like this into a super high ranking for me, but it was not a bad track by any means, just not a style of track that I typically enjoy. The track on May 26 was Far West by Mr. Nugu. Far West was a full-speed dirt track, and it was a pretty good one too. Outside of one section, I really enjoyed this track. However, the one section I disliked really dropped the ranking for me. About 30 seconds or so in, there's this train that you need to kind of jump through or over, and it has a bunch of poles sticking up, and you got to try to jump your way through it. It's just rather annoying to try to do. It'll be coming up right here, and we'll see that I got to try to jump through these poles. It's just rather annoying to lose your run so far into the track because you just don't have a perfect line through that section. So, the rest of the track was pretty good, but that section kind of ruined it. The track on May 27th gets our 5th place ranking. It was Forsaken by Bartsimpson94. Forsaken was a speed tech track, a very nice speed tech track as well. You know, obviously, you know, it's another speed tech track in the top 5. I've really been liking speed tech more and more, and this one did it pretty well. As far as I recall as well, this creator usually makes full speed tracks. I don't know how much they've really dabbled into the speed tech, but from what I can remember, they always have been making full speed, so it's nice to at least see them going out into other stuff. And speed tech, for that matter, you know, it's kind of a close relative to the full speed tracks, so it's not too far off, and, you know, it's not surprising that they made a good one. And getting the second and final honorable mention, on May 28th, we have Satisfice MTC by Mania Master TM. Mania Master has been kind of making the weirder tracks lately. They've had a couple in the past month or two, and this one is no exception. Of course, we got the ice here, and we're kind of going uphill basically the entire way. It's a very weird track. It's a very hard track as well to get these lines correctly. You can easily bonk a lot of stuff. You can very, very easily lose gears as well. Extremely challenging track, and I bet people had a nightmare on this one, especially if you're not good at ice. This is going to be a extremely difficult track. For the track on May 29th, we have Runic 1, The Great Evil by WoxxTheFox. Outside of this little grass section at the starts, we basically have a NASCAR track. Not your typical NASCAR track either. We don't really have all the walls and such, very narrow lines as well, and you know, some transitions in here too. Like most NASCAR tracks, it really doesn't do a ton for me. I find them a little bit boring. At least this one had a few grass sections and a little bit of a wall ride in here. A few jumping transitions as well. It puts it a little bit above maybe a typical like NASCAR style track. But overall, it just didn't do a lot for me. It's an okay track. There's certainly nothing terrible with it. And again, just kind of another track. On May 30th, we have Infexus by NC Boy oh boy, this track, as you can see by the medal times in the upper right, quite a nightmare. No time between these medals, extremely difficult. And as you can see us driving here, we are not on a typical route. Here I'm trying to follow the world record. There is kind of like an RPG track inside of this one, and it's basically going to be my only chance at a gold medal on this track. Of course, this means I did not get the gold medal here. I did not get the gold medal yet on this track, and I really could not get it the normal way either. As you see, my time driving the normal way was just barely breaking the bronze medal time. So that means this will be the second track I have been unable to get gold on at this point, but I do believe I can get this one, not easily, but I can get it. With the no respawn timer, I did get a gold medal time on one run with respawn, so it is possible. And the final track of the month on May 31st, we have Dirting Dancing by Tep.Alex. As the title of the track would suggest, it is a dirt track. It's a pretty good dirt track too. I enjoyed my time playing on it. Nothing inherently wrong with it, nothing super special about it, it just works. Sometimes just trying not to do anything outlandish and just making an overall smooth driving track is kind of all you need to make a good track. Yeah, and that's really all I got to say about it, so just overall a very nice job here by Tep.Alex. So as we play this first place track in the background here, we'll go over this chart, which we can see the current month we have spent 267 minutes trying to get all the gold medals. This results in it being the third longest month. Of course, this time will only go up though, as I still need to get that final gold medal. Here on this line chart, we can see that I'm still on average beating the gold medal time despite the silver medal this month being over 1 second faster, and that equates to about 2.1% faster. That's about all I got for today though. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Check the description for links to my Twitch and Discord. And be sure to check out all the other Can I Gold Every Track of the Day videos out already. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.